Have you ever wondered what Zone 2 training is? You'll see loads and loads of YouTube videos, and all seems to be the thing today is to go for Zone 2, not 3, 4, 5, this Zone 2 training. So, what's it all about? You hear all these terms like FTP, V02 Max, fuel utilization. It's all, I don't know. So today, I've come to the Performance Centre at Loughborough University to find out all about this Zone 2 training. So, just before we start, a bit of backstory for those who've not met me before. I'm living with T4 prostate cancer. It's life-limiting, and I have it in my pelvis, spine, and ribs. I've just finished my chemo, hence the reason my hair's growing again. I've finished my steroids, and the only treatment I have now is testosterone inhibitor for the rest of my life, because that is what prostate cancer likes to feed on. The only trouble with that is it makes it hard for me to grow muscle or repair muscle. But nevertheless, I've decided that to inspire other people who are also perhaps in difficult situations like me to get up and do something, I've decided to become an Ironman. So, an Ironman here, what on earth is that? Well, it's quite simple. It's a 3.8k swim, first of all, in open water. So, can I do that? Yep, my swimming is good. Next, I jump on my bike for 180 kilometers. That's about 8 hours. Can I do that? Absolutely no chance. At present, I could manage about 15 kilometers in 45 minutes. So a long way off. Then once you finish the 180k bike ride, you just run a marathon. Can I run a marathon? Absolutely not. At present, I would run 5k in a jog walk in about 45 minutes. But nevertheless, this is a starting point. So I come back to the point about Zone 2 training. How can that help me achieve in what I'm trying to do in 6 months to become an Ironman? So that's why I've come to Loughborough University, one of the best places in the world, to find out what tests can be done to assess how I can best train, given my condition and physique, to achieve an Ironman in 6 months. So I'd like to introduce Steve Harris, the performance physiologist at Loughborough University. Hi, Steve. Nice to meet you. Thanks very much for looking after us. If you could just give us a sort of introduction, what it is that we plan to do and why we're doing it for everyone, that would be terrific.
Great. Well, we've got 2 tests today. The first test is a submax test. So during that, we're trying to understand or find in particular 2 particular markers, which is lactate threshold 1 and lactate threshold 2, which is taken via blood lactate samples throughout the test. And when we see particular rises in that lactate, it can help us to mark where the top of Zone 2 is, which I know you're interested in. So lactate threshold 1 is the top end of that of that zone. Lactate threshold 1 generally aligns pretty well with long endurance performance. So the one that's quite easy for people to kind of picture is it's almost marathon intensity. So what's possible for a longer duration without getting loads of fatigue, loads of metabolites, making it hard for your muscles to kind of continue without fatigue. So that's why a lot of focus is on getting a lot of Zone 2 in when you're doing endurance challenges in, because that will help you push that first threshold to higher powers, higher intensities, which means you can sustain it for longer without fatigue.
Excellent.
So really important for your challenge. And then the second threshold that we'll be looking for is the lactate threshold 2. That's a little bit more important for high intensity. It's a great marker of sort of 10K running pace, or equally on the bike, 25 mile, 10 mile sort of TT flat out, really giving it for 30 to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So less important for Ironman, but also it gives you the capacity if there's tougher segments during the race. So if you need to push over climbs, if you need to, if the weather's you're into a headwind for a little period, it gives you a little bit more headspace that you're not burning too many matches and able to keep in the race and kind of keep yourself moving. Perfect. So we're going to be doing those, the first test to assess those to start with. Alongside that, we'll also get fuel data as well. So that's how much carb and fat you're using at each intensity that we test. So that will be valuable for you to know that, right, for me to be able to get through that 180 kilometers, how much fuel do I need to be getting in? how much carb do I need to be fueling to make sure that you basically don't bonk and kind of get that depleted, empty feeling, so that when you've got to run that marathon after it, you're not empty before you even get onto that.
Excellent.
Sweet. Now we're looking at masks. We're going to be in this mask for the whole of this test, so it's worth getting right. So we've got a few different sizes. This is probably the one that we most use. What we want is to fit over nose and mouth, have a good seal, but equally not get too tight. So you'll feel if it's getting a bit too tight or it's a bit too close, you want to go size up. If you start feeling it's pressing in on the bridge of your nose, or equally when I'm tightening, if it starts to dig into the eyes, that's where it gets uncomfortable. So if you want to place that over nose and mouth, I'll just have a quick check of seal, and I think that one probably be all right. I'll check one other size just so we've got a comparison. Let's grab another one. There it goes. So we're going to take the first lactate sample now. So it'll be a sharp little spike. So very similar to if you ever had like a blood glucose diabetes check. So basically a little sample, a little spike.
Don't worry, anyone.
And then what we do is we fill a small capillary tube, which tiny tube here. So if you look forward, so we'll be able to do this as you're pedaling along during the test. Take a sample that then we'll basically run through our glucose and lactate analyzer, and that's what we'll be measuring as we run through the test. So lactate in your blood should be at a relatively low baseline after the warm-up. And so what we'll want to see hopefully in the early stages is that baseline continues out. So you are producing lactate at all points from breaking down carbohydrates, because it's a byproduct when you break down your carbs. But with your aerobic energy system being still so predominant and strong, that'll get basically keep using it, keep oxidizing it. So the other thing that I forgot to mention in terms of things that we'll be looking at as you go through each stage, I'll just ask you where you are on the RPE scale as well. Yeah. So 6 to 20, a lot of people work on like a 1 to 10, and they've got very similar things of when you're working with your coach. So that's just to bring a little bit more of not just all the objective numbers, but some of the perceptual numbers as well. But what we'll do now then, so because we've got everything set up, you've had a bit of a warm up, our gas analyzer is now on, so we'll now get that all attached, masks on, and then we'll get into the actual test. Brilliant. Get you pedaling. So if I ask you to again place that on your face comfortably, or as positioned as nicely as you can, and I'll pull this over the back. So I'm going to tighten this around the side, so if any point, as I said, it starts to get too uncomfortable, or you feel it sort of starting to get too tight across the bridge of the nose, or gets too uncomfortable around your eyes, obviously you want a good seal, but not one that, like I say, is going to be too restrictive or feel too horrible, because you will be in it for a fair while whilst we're on our test. How does that all feel? Tight, but feels all right? Okay, cool. So first stage now, try and get the rhythm, get that cadence set in, and we'll get some, start gathering some nice data, hopefully. Little nudge, but a little nudge further. Is that a 10? Yep, good stuff. Still looking nice and controlled, well done. Then you can see that step up, and then you can see this next step up for the next stage. You can see every time that you're adding more power or going to a higher intensity, it's obviously making that shift of using more oxygen, or uptaking more oxygen, but also producing more carbon dioxide. So obviously basically using substrates more to produce that extra power, that extra energy required. Thank you. Okay, 10 seconds, so we jump up through to the 105, starting to get a bit more tasty. Cool, where are you on there? 12 stuff? Really nicely done. 30 seconds more of this one. Definitely out of that zone 2 now, so doing really well. Perfect, thank you. Great stuff, coming up to 40 minutes cycled here, doing a really nice job here. Come on, keep it going. This is where it really starts to dig a little bit. Keep it on. So at most it will be a full one more stage. Perfect, good job. So we're going to go up to 140. So we'll do 3 minutes to start with, and I'll see what this number comes back as. Where are you on there, Alistair? 15, good stuff. Come on, hold it on, you're doing a great job. Good job, over 45 minutes of pedaling now, really well worked. 2 minutes. Nice, keep it nice and smooth. Still looking good, still holding the power really well. 90 seconds. Come on, hold it on. 60 seconds, really nicely done. Come on, don't let it off now. 40 seconds to finish it off. After the 40 seconds is over, just relax. I'll grab the mask off. Last sample I'm going to take now. Perfect, all good. 20 seconds. Good stuff. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good job. I'll just take the resistance off. Good. Really well done.
Good effort.
So you can kind of see the steps. So just a reminder, the blue is your oxygen uptake. The red is CO2 being produced. So these, you can see kind of just about the steps that you were taking every time we up the power. So was it around about like the 120 watts mark, you think you started switching between into a bit more mouth breathing? So you can kind of see like how, it definitely looks like there's a difference when you can see that's probably the first up to around about 120, and when you've got a little bit of that higher frequency that you're probably building in up here. So it was just not quite noticeable in there. So this is your data from your submax test. And you see this first sort of red bottom line there, that's your blood lactate. As we were talking about before, when you're near baseline and you're in your real aerobic zones, down in zone 1, zone 2, you'll see you'll have like a relatively nice baseline of lactate. So lactate isn't really increasing, you're producing it, but you're being able to clear it. Your aerobic energy systems are dominant. So we saw probably that first little pickup come around about the 95 watt mark. So that means your zone 2 is likely to be in and around here and aligns with these heart rates here. So maybe, around 110 to 120 is probably going to be somewhere around where your zone 2 heart rate will be. You can then see as we slowly start to increase the power, that still continues to rise until we almost get to an exponential point where we get that real kick in lactate towards that back end. So that was probably around, between that 120, 130 mark is where you really started to get got to a relatively high lactate, and then it almost doubles when we go beyond there. So that second threshold, I'm probably going to put around that 125 mark to split the difference, because we had quite a nice rise, but then it kind of it stabilized a little bit before really going exponential. So I'm going to go, when I get all of the data from the oxygen and carbon dioxide as well, I might tweak it, but at the moment we're looking at a first threshold around 95, and a second threshold around about 125. So normally the gap between those, that's normally a normal-ish gap. Some people can really extend, if they really focus on this, can pull this a little bit further forwards, but your base and your LT1 is always going to be like the pillar, because you can't drag this high intensity capacity too far away from your first threshold, especially when that first threshold for yourself and being Ironman focus is going to be the thing that's going to allow you to sustain power over the longer duration. And that will help you set up your training zones, set up your interval base. So now we know sort of roughly what might be sustainable for different durations. We also want to find the ceiling of your aerobic physiology, and that's V02 Max. So you might see on here, we've got a really sharp ramp. So rather than it being a long drawn out one where we're doing 6 minutes and slowly increasing by 10 or 15 watts, we're going to do 5 watts every 20 seconds. So a lot steeper. So what we're doing is we're trying to drive all of that oxygen uptake up as fast as we can. So we don't want it to be a super long test, so that it means that basically your legs go before you can get your cardiovascular up into the top end, but also not too short that your legs go before you're able to get your cardiovascular there. So it's a bit of a sweet spot of around about 6 to 10, 12 if we're going really well, that sort of area. So short, sharp ramp, but to push your oxygen uptake to the highest it can be.
Got it.
So you will see it go up and up and up, and then eventually we'll see that oxygen uptake plateau. That plateau is because there's loads of limiters within our body of like what limits the amount of oxygen we can uptake. So that's obviously how much we can get in, how much we can get into our lungs, how much we can then transfer from lungs into your blood, how good we are at getting it distributed to the working muscles, how good your muscles are being able to take that out and then use it. So there's loads of different sort of rate limiters that you'll obviously want to try and maximize. The more you maximize them, the higher your VO2 max is going to be. So that's why if we keep going, we keep adding more and more power, you're obviously demanding more oxygen until, yes, yeah, we're asking for more energy and more power to be produced, but you just can't get any more oxygen in and use it. So we see a plateau, and we're trying to find that plateau. So good job. So I'll skip you into that first stage. It's going to be 80 watts. Every 20 seconds, you'll have that extra 5. So I'll skip into it now. So going in 3, 2, 1. So get your rhythm on the early stages and keep pulling and pushing through from there.
Do you take blood samples in this one?
We only do it right at the end on this one. So we're getting those max numbers. So VO2 max, max heart rate, and max lactate as well. So seeing what like that top range of the lactate production is as well. Great stuff. So up around that second threshold that we found from that first test. So this is where it's going to start really kicking on. Keep yourself in the zone and keep pushing through. Nice, 150 up. Getting towards that 6-minute mark. Looking really nice, looking really strong. Come on, keep pushing, come on, keep holding, come on. Dig deep now, this is really where it starts to count. Make sure we get everything out during this test. Keep driving. Come on, keep it on, come on, don't let it off. Come on, you got it. Come on, come on, come on, come on, keep it on, come on. Let's keep aiming, keep pushing forwards. Come on, you've got it.
Keep going.
Come on, really nice work. 175 watts up, come on. Can we get any more out? Come on, let's see if we can get through. Come on.
Get through the gate.
Come on, your cadence is still there, you're still there. Well done, come on. Hold it on, hold it up. You're doing a great job, well done. It's another one ticked off, well done. Come on, you're still there, come on. Let's see if we can get through this one. It's only another 10 seconds.
2 more watts. Go. Go.
Come on, we'll finish off on this one. We've got 5 seconds. Going in 3, 2, 1. Great job. Well done. You want a bit more? You're done. Well done. Great job. I'll get the mask off for you.
Great.
Really well pushed at the end of that one. Well done.
How's that?
The most valuable stuff for you, Alistair, would be just getting these zones sort of properly set in and just kind of giving you a bit of a gauge of overview where that bench line is at the moment, or that benchmark is. Talking about earlier that we're going to obviously do this quick ramp where obviously you've got power that's going up and up and up, and obviously your oxygen uptake matches that to start with, so it goes all the way up and up and up until we hit that plateau. So that was where, you know, you started to still be putting more power in, but just couldn't get any more out, so you get this little plateau here. So we'll average the the highest minute that you have, so and that will give us our VO2 max number. That will also give us a guide. So I was talking about, this is the max, you know, the ceiling, where those 2 thresholds that we got from that first test were, how close they are to that VO2 max also gives us a bit of a gauge of what training might work best for you. So if those thresholds are really close to the ceiling, sometimes you have to push the ceiling up before you can keep moving your thresholds, or vice versa. If you've got a really nice big ceiling, then you've just got the training to kind of move and be able to basically make the most out of it a little bit more. It's interesting with obviously the challenges that you have, and if you're obviously lower testosterone, and that building or maintaining muscle might be a bit more of a challenge. It might be sometimes like it's, you know, having some real high intensity work in there as well, though it's not specific to your, you know, to the race that you're doing. Being able to build that muscle and keep obviously that S&C going in there allows you to make sure that you can use it. I mean, a really good effort, really well pushed.
Thank you.
So I think initially eyeballing, we'll obviously do it a bit more precisely when you'll get your report off the back of it.
Yeah.
But probably VO2 max is looking around about 30 at the moment.
Yeah.
So a pretty good score. Room for development as well, but I think across the profile, this is the
I like
start.
the base.
This is the start. I'm moving on. So for around your age group, that would be around about the 30th percentile. So we've got some movement to probably, well, with a really well-structured training program like you've already got in, you're likely to progress that well, especially obviously off the back of the chemo that you've had, and with that hemoglobin being down, like that normally does suppress VO2 max as well.
Yep.
So getting back into training, we'll probably see that progress quite nicely as well.
What would you like to see, just as an average VO2 max by the time I got to August?
So I think for sort of your age group will probably be around about 35, 36 will be fair. So you're not a million miles off it at all.
Okay.
And like I say, just especially because it's a relative number, and I know you have some ambitions with your nutrition to drop body comp slightly. So say if you went from where you are today, dropped 5 kg off it, even if your cardiovascular fitness doesn't change, that will also have a beneficial effect, because basically you're not having to fuel with oxygen quite as much.
Got it. Brilliant. Well, that's fantastic. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Just before we go, if you could just, for my viewers, just sort of summarize the benefits, of doing these type of, ramp tests and the first one we did. What was the first test we did?
So the submax test, where we look at lactate thresholds and that.
Threshold.
So there's a few different, you might hear it in a number of different ways, but in another step test.
Yeah.
I'd say from my opinion, I think it's when you've got a job, you've got family, you've got a lot of commitments, being able to come in here and get a nice sort of line in the sand or benchmark of where your fitness is, and allow it to be able to, when you are doing your training, work really specifically to your own physiology rather than bits and pieces that's online. You understand yourself, and therefore you can optimize your training around it and basically get the biggest bang for buck. It just gives you the confidence that you're doing, if you've got a target you're going towards, you're doing the right things in the right zones to be able to make an impact.
Well, that's brilliant. What a fabulous place and facility you have. I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So there we go, everyone. I hope you find that informative. It was a great day. Steve was fantastic. It was also very nice to go back to Loughborough because Cameron, my son, read human biology at Loughborough. So what about the results then? Just before I get there, you probably noticed that I'm looking a little browner. I also have quite a lot more hair, although it's a bit Cruella white one side and darker the other. But anyway, we'll see what happens. And that's because I went to Loughborough in February and went out at the beginning of April. I waited for a report to come back, and then I've been doing other stuff and other vlogs. And so I have been to Mallorca, as you saw from the previous. So my training, apart from my knee, but it is no pain anymore. But so my training is going better. So I think the first thing to show from here is that it perhaps just indicates how low level I am. Okay, admittedly, I was only just at the end of my steroids and 6 weeks from my chemotherapy. But you can see that my sort of lactate 1, which is really the sort of endurance level, to be under 100 watts is a bit of a challenge when you've got to do an Ironman in under 17 hours. From that, though, I think if I was to go back even now and do it, then I think it would be a marked difference. I do plan to go back in probably July. At the moment, the Ironman is slated for August the 2nd. And so go for an updated one just to give us some more updated levels that I should then be planning to do my cycling element at to make sure that I don't run out of puff. But the good news is that I might be, low at the moment, but the progress to get to a standard that I need to is definitely there. Yeah, and that's what I'm very much focused on now. And if you look at the sort of conclusions from him, firstly, my cardio system's pretty good, which I knew, and obviously with my hemoglobin that's back up from 122 to 141, I think. That's also helping my oxygen capability. So it's really, I've just got no legs. I've just got no quads or glutes. So my cardio is good, and that'll only continue to improve. And my training is to really focus on that endurance lowish wattage, but it'll hopefully increase, but also mixed in with some high intensity training in there to improve my overall performance. So that's where we are. The report also gives you some suggested programs in order to improve this lactate 1, and that's the one we've really got to push up to get closer to the lactate 2, which you really don't want to be going past, and there's quite a big gap between the two, so hopefully. But of course both are going to go up together, but lactate 1 faster than lactate 2. So I've also got here some suggestions on more high intensity sessions to improve my overall durability. And also on my V02 Max, which was 28.6, I think it was. Young people, you'll be in the 70s, but at my age, it probably should be high 30s. So I've got some work to do, but if I keep doing the work I am, and they've also given me some training regimes to improve my VO2 max, we should see, I think I should hopefully get into the high 30s, which will make a substantial difference on my performance. So watch this space, I would see, as I get on with my training, and we'll see how we manage. Just as interest for you, being Loughborough University, of course, one of the best places in the world. So they produced a brilliant report. So obviously that was the summary part here. But within that, if you want to get it, they will give you all of the data from the first lactate test that I did here, and then obviously doing my ramp test for the VO2 max. So thank you very much, Loughborough University. Here's the website. If you're interested in getting a test, you won't find a better place than Loughborough. I would argue. Other universities may disagree, but they do a great job. And so this is the web address to get to the physiology department. And feel free here to email Rona or Steve, who was with us today, and they will give you all the information to support whether you want to come there to test out running or cycling. It's an absolutely fantastic experience. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to my next vlogs when I'm continue to increase my training. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.